Hello, everybody. Welcome. Eternal Return Vision Guide coming at you. I actually got this requested by a lot of people even before I made the first video, when I was kind of doing research on what videos would be useful. But yeah, this is going to be a vision guide. It's going to be loosely definitive. I wanted to go over the basics and also good habits for the future, just so that it future proofs in a way that, unless vision changes fundamentally in season 11 or something, people can come back to this and reference it when they need. Okay, so first of all, I'm not a monolith. I don't play your character. I don't play your role. More than likely, there are experts in KR that do play your character and role, and you should be looking towards those people for your specific character on your free time and see how they play around vision, especially in team fights, I think is the most helpful. But this guide is going to be general tips for most players, no matter what. Okay, so first, why is this important? I've seen a lot of people talk about vision contribution, and I think it is a very important metric. I do think it has a little bit of a bias, right? So I have myself, Jast or Jason, and then Squirtle on the screen, and an increasing vision contribution. And one thing that you might note is that it scales comparing me to them is that they have a higher TK than me and have a higher win rate than me, right? So they probably see more teams on average, thus they have a higher vision contribution than me, right? So it's very easy to say, well, average vision contribution doesn't matter, but it does, right? If you look at Korean top players, there's some people with a vision contribution of 26 in KR Immortal, and then there's some with an average of 41, right? So there's definitely different techniques certain characters are using or certain players are using to increase the amount of vision they're getting per game more than other people. As well, you can also compare game to game, like when you win a game, what's your vision contribution versus one of the players that you look up to. When they win a game, what is their vision contribution? And you can see it on deck or you can see it in game. If you want to check your vision contribution in a game, the same screen where you see damage graphs, there will be an option on the left side to see your vision graph as well and compare it to the lobby. So going forward, we're going to talk about the basics. If you think you know these, you can skip forward. I would recommend not. If you are the target audience, there might be some things that you do not know. So just stick around anyway. But again, you can come back to this later if you think you don't need this right now. But left side, we have a graph showing a couple things. One is that nighttime has reduced vision compared to daytime. And the other takeaway is that cameras have more vision than a player, which is very, very important. On the right side is a screenshot in game. It just turned nighttime. It's the second it turned nighttime. And you see my vision is very, very tiny. And a lot of people will, especially if they're a diver or they need to take space in order to win a fight, and they're not neutral reliant, but they're very fast in how they play. They might wait for a nighttime change in order for you to lose vision to be able to send on you as fast as possible. So these are the sort of moments where warding your feet or placing a ward right on nighttime is probably the best way to play these fights, or use a recon or something like this just to ensure that you don't get cheesed at the start of a nighttime. Okay, vision basics number 1, words. You get them from the little bats. They're placed like words in any other MOBA. They last for 60 seconds and then you can have 2 per person. Notably, they have some downsides, right? They have a health bar, so they can be killed by enemies, and they have a pretty low placement range, which means you probably don't want to be checking bushes with this specifically. However, it's static vision for a minute for almost an entire day cycle, and you can spot invisible enemies and traps and stuff like that. So that is just a little bit about words. Recons, you get them from the Ravens. They don't have a health bar, right? So they're not killable, which late game is actually a very big boon, is that they can't control your vision in team fights. But they have a limited cast time, right? So they only last for 5 seconds, but have a 6-second cooldown. This is actually done intentionally by Nimble Neuron. It used to be 6 and 6, where you could keep one area or one person permanently reconned. However, they nerfed it to make it to where there will always be a downtime where you don't have vision no matter what for a little bit of a fight. So during that downtime, just be aware you won't have vision to back up or ask for vision from your teammates or place a ward or supplement the recon with something else. Also to note that recons and EMPs do share a cooldown, so you can't just alternate. But EMPs, my favorite. Get these from the little mutant ravens. Sometimes the ravens around the map will be mutants, and the EMPs are more souped up versions of the recons, right? They disable enemy wards and traps is the most important thing about these. They're a little bit more expensive to drone in because of that. And how EMPs work is there's an initial blue wave that goes out. That initial blue wave is what disables the wards and traps, not the circle and the vision circle itself, right? So if you see one of these EMPs on a ward, you can replace another ward even though the recon circle is still there to continue to gain more vision, which is one of the most important tips I can give about EMPs, is reward the spot when they are used on you is most often the best habit to develop here. I spoke in the last video about how you use info or vision to make assumptions in map reads, and then you use that to make informed decisions on how to play the game state, right? And how to win. So that's also the same for the enemies, right? When you deny vision, it changes their decisions as well, and the decisions that they are capable of making. So for instance, if you're in between two teams, you might want to EMP yourself to deny vision on a ward so that the other team doesn't know that you're in the middle of two other teams, right? So they don't try to 3P you. Or if they're in the middle of you and another team, you might want to EMP their vision to cause a 3P in your favor, right? These sort of things. Or if you want to look like a zone is empty, you might want to EMP some wards that are pre-placed so that you can pretend like nothing is happening in the zone, and then they come and they face check you. Importantly, bushes, you more than likely want to pre-EMP if you think they're warded, right? Because wards have more vision than a player, if you have seen a ward, it has already spotted you. So if you think there's an area that is very likely to be warded and you don't want to be seen, you need to EMP regardless if there's a ward there or not, okay? It is very, very important. You're pre-EMPing bushes and you're playing intentionally, like when late game especially. You want to intentionally play around the fact that you don't want to be seen sometimes. You should be pre-EMPing. And then the last one, this is a tip for the the abnormal game players, but you can EMP backliners, right? Because it disables traps as well. If you think that they're sending a lot of DGs or ISIL traps or things like this, you can just EMP them, and then they don't work. You can just walk straight through a DG if it's EMP'd. So you can also walk straight through a ward and not kill it and get to like a bush or the other side of the ward vision when you EMP something like that. So use that as a tool. Vision basics number 3, moving on. Recon orbs, one of my favorite vision tools. EMP is definitely number 1. Recon orbs, close second. It places on your feet, travels forward for about 9 seconds, waits a second, and then returns, and then repeats, right? Lasts about 25, 26 maybe seconds, and it has a 16-second cooldown. So you can have multiple of these at once. You probably don't want to, because 10 gadget energy is actually very expensive. The more you use recon orbs early game, the less playmaking potential you have mid to late game, right? You won't have the ability to VLS or place a kiosk or CNOT, these sort of things. In early game, most of the time I'm using a stew anyway, so I can't even use recon orbs that much early game. And then Vision Basics 4. This was in the last video, the slide, so I'm not going to go over it, but you can gain a lot of quote-unquote vision from the info that's happening around you. Pings, VLSs, transport pings, objectives, teams that, or the team number and the number of players, these sort of things can all give you informed, or it can give you information for you to make informed decisions. Okay, going into the mindset of vision. Very important. The first one is, do you need vision here? Most of the time, you don't. Like, if you think about 24 minutes of a game, most of the time you probably don't need vision in an area. And this is important to think about because vision honestly is expensive. It's really, really expensive. And you shouldn't like hold off on using vision. Like, it is useful. However, if you're using a recon in every bush you ever pass through, you're probably going broke before you can ever get your first force core. So the better your map read is on where teams are, the more informed you're going to be on where you can get cheesed or where you do need vision, and the more efficient your vision play is going to be. And importantly on that, you need to think about like vision is an investment. So if you let's say like you're contesting day 3 forestry, for instance. Forestry is worth 200 credits. Anything under 200 credits worth of vision is worth it. I would even say if you spend more than 200 credits, it's probably worth it, right? If you spend 100, 150 credits on vision, imagine you just bought a tree of life from a kiosk for 100 credits, is essentially what you did, right? Because the alternative is if you don't use vision in that fight, you die. Like I lost a game yesterday because I didn't keep vision on a Yan who walked into a blind spot, prepped Q1, flashed Q2, and I just died from it, right? So every single time that you are thinking of holding credits, you should not be holding credit. If you don't have vision to play in a fight, you should be using. Think about it as like a tax. For you to be able to contest X objective, you need to spend an amount of credits on vision, or an amount of vision in general, right? Even like sometimes late game, if I'm 450 credits and I'm about to get a blood, but there's Wicca line spawning, I might spend 450 credits to make sure I get Wicca line. Because Wicca line's worth 900 credits plus a buff that makes you like immortal, it feels like, right? So use vision, don't be scared of using your credits. The last one, eye wrapping. This is not like an actual term in the community. This is just something I came up with. Insta buy ward and place. So the idea of this is that if you don't have vision on your hotbar, but you need vision, it is useful to be able to open your quick buy menu, buy a ward or a recon when you need it, or a couple wards and recons, and then continue to resume the fight without losing too much of your pace, right? Or if you need a ward when you're walking through the map, or you're reconning, you don't want to lose a couple seconds of tempo every single time you need to buy vision for, you know, bush clearing or something like that. But in general, you should be passing through the map with vision on your hotbar, and you should be fighting with vision on your hotbar as well. There's no excuse, really. But if you find yourself out of wards and you need a ward for a fight, you should be able to buy a ward and it not impact you. It is very technical to be able to do this consistently, so something to practice. And going on that, on eye wrapping, teamfight vision is very important. It is expected that enemies stay on vision at all times, right? Like imagine as soon as you don't see the enemy, you've turned your monitor off. Or if you're boxing, right? You're like boxing 1v1 on a boxing stage, right? Or in a ring. Imagine you just close your eyes for 5 seconds, right? You're gonna get smacked, of course you are. So it's very important that you continue to keep vision on people that have the potential to kill you or a teammate. And it is everybody's job to do this. Now, that could look like pre-warning bushes before a fight or before an objective. If you have the ability to set up vision before an objective spawns, that is preferred, right? But sometimes you don't have the ability to pre-set up vision. So you might want to make sure you have enough recons to recon bushes if somebody dips into a bush and you need to auto attack them constantly. If you're a tank, one of your jobs as a tank is to take up space and to provide vision to your team to enable your backliners to do as much damage as possible. So it might be your job to walk forward at nighttime to provide as much vision as possible and place even deeper wards. Or to walk into a bush and bush check with your face so that your team can actually continue to deal damage in a fight. Again, remember, nighttime vision is drastically reduced. So if you're a backliner and you need vision to fight, you should be warding your feet at the very least. There's no excuse for that. Every single time during nighttime, ward your feet. And if you're a backline and you don't have wards or recons on your hotbar, you need to be able to buy them and not affect fight tempo. Like if you're in neutral, you need a recon to make sure you're not getting, ganked on the side. You should be able to buy a recon. And back click, buy a recon within 2 seconds, recon side vision, right? Something like that. Or buy a number of recons so you don't have to continue to do that. All right. Going into the vision habits. This is the most important aspect of this. This is all the high level ideas. I won't have any geoguessers from here on out. Sorry to disappoint, but I wanted people to focus for these sort of things. So, vision habit number 1, recon bushes. Seems simple. I purposefully gave one of the hardest examples as a screenshot as possible because it is not simple. It's actually really, really important that we think about this non-linearly. Because if you're contesting from Uptown, right, on the bottom of the screenshot, this area right here, you have to think about, am I reconning this bush or this bush, right? Am I reconning the Tree of Life, the sand fog that's on the other side of it? Am I reconning this entrance over here? Is there somebody on CCTV, right? There's actually a lot of places that you might want vision and a lot of blind spots here as well, right? So you need to think about where a team's likely to be. Hopefully, if you're contesting this Tree of Life, you're here early, right? So you can get the CCTV, you can plant some pre-wards and stuff like that. But if you're contesting late and you want to try to get this tree, you need to spend vision as a tax, as an investment to try to get this. And you might ask for teammates to recon one of them so you can vision, or you can use your vision for the other. You might use an ability for one of these, those sort of things. If you don't think there'll be a team here, you might ward it instead of reconning it so you can still have your recon off cooldown so that you could use your recon at that same timing. Or you might use a recon orb to hit multiple of these at the same time. And we'll go over recon orbs later, but recon orbs are always good to supplement your vision in case you have a spot where you can't get vision of multiple places. Recon orbs are very good for that specifically. Vision habit number 2, ward entryways and high traffic areas. So shown, I have CCTV of gas station, and then I've stood in a corner so that the vision is impacted by me. And then I have placed my max 2 ward capacities in these 2 bushes. This bush right here, and this bush right here. And you can see if anybody's coming from school, fire, or police alley, I will be able to spot them no matter what entrance they take. Unless they dash over this wall or something like that. It's I guess a potential blind spot here. But you can see with just 2 wards I have almost complete vision of all the entryways. And if I needed to, maybe this Omega that's right here is spawning, I feel very comfortable. I might ask a teammate to get a deeper ward in archery to make sure that teams aren't rotating through school into archery or there's not teams coming from archery in general. But, just with my 2 words, we have pretty good vision coverage of this zone. Now, it's important to think about vision as control, right? If you have vision of an area and you know there's no team there, you can pass very aggressively and take all the resources on that area. So thus, you control that area. If it's possible to get vision and control multiple zones mid to late game, do it, right? Especially in a very linear game state, or where all the maps are in a line. it's very, very easy to get vision of like maybe not the deepest zone, but the second deepest zone, and just ensure that nobody can pass through your vision without being seen. And this is kind of an optional win con. The better vision habits that you have and the better at holding a zone you are, the higher chance you're going to be able to ride one zone all the way into a temporary final zone and then guarantee a top two. Sometimes if you've had like 15 TK and you have wick buff, or you didn't get wick buff maybe, and the best way to win the game is to instill like as least chaos around you as possible. Like you just want to like, there's 6 teams available, going fast fifth would suck here. I just want placement to ensure high RP. Go for it, right? That is a way that you can play the game. And I just want to make sure that you're aware. And then vision habit 3, eye whapping. Again, you should be passing through the map with vision on your hotbar. You should be especially playing fights with vision on your hotbar. There's no exception. However, if you don't have a ward and you hear a dagger skill, or you think you're going to get dagger skilled, you should have a ward. You should be able to buy a ward. Theodora is another character where, if he just goes invisible on your screen, repositions, and then hits you with the spark nade, you kind of just die. There's no excuse. You should have a ward. You should be able to place a ward when it's needed. Isol has a similar thing where he can use his E, go invisible, and reposition in a fight. And sometimes that can cause you to very quickly lose a fight, have it snowball out of control. And then Jenny passive is another example of a character you want to have a ward for no matter what. If you pop Jenny passive and you realize, oh shoot, I don't have a ward, you should be able to buy a ward and place it before Jenny passive is up. Now again, very high technical, like it requires a certain APM and familiarity with the UI of the game to be able to do that consistently, but that's a skill that you should be practicing in your games. And then vision habit 4, recon corners and wall cheese. The more you play versus better players, the more you realize bush cheese does not work, and that wall cheese and corner cheese is like way, way better, right? So the camera characters are great examples of this, but if you've ever played in solos, you've probably been killed by a Hyunwoo who's just like corner cheesing, or a Yuki, and then just like they stun you once, they one shot you, and then GG, goodbye. So this is kind of a thing where it requires good game sense, and the more you've died to these sort of cheeses, the more you will be aware of them. It takes a lot of time to get fully aware of all the spaces in the game you can get cheesed in. So I have an example, for instance. I am Nasapon, I have a chill camera here. I didn't cover chill cameras earlier. They're basically a ward that is invisible unless you step in this ring, but they're basically a telephoto camera just the same. And here I have vision of this dummy, but the dummy doesn't have vision of me, right? And matter of fact, this dummy won't have vision of me until it steps parallel with this wall. So until it is here, it won't have vision of me, right? So I actually put a dummy on my feet where I'm standing on these branches, and then I put myself here, right? You can see I don't have LOS, and if I were to continue to walk here in this example, I wouldn't have LOS until I move here. So this is an example. If there's a Hyunwoo, there's a Yuki, there's a Martina. If you've never been Martina bush teased, she'll just like E-shift, dash, ult, and then kill you from like a screen away, and then, zip back like nothing ever happened, and then GG. It feels very awful to lose the game that way, but just think, every time you die to cheese like that, the less it's going to happen in the future. You'll be more aware of it in the future, right? And this is the sort of thing where reconning this bush and this wall cheese, very good habit. There's also other areas you can die. Maybe they're cheesing here, or there's a blast plant in this area right here. Maybe you want to recon this area and then pass more this way, away from that, right? So there's ways to play around both. This is definitely an area, a corridor, where it's very likely that you die if you don't have good vision habits. So I'm saying you got to recon the bushes, but you also have to recon the other ways you can get cheese. The blast plant, the wall cheese, and then there's 3 bushes here that you could die if you fish check. Vision habit 5. Ward behind. This is very hard to give all the examples where you do want to ward behind, but in general, warding behind you is a very, very strong idea. I got this from Nessius specifically. Thank you, Nessius. When I was getting coached in Lumia Rumble, one of the tournaments, or the tournament that I won. I've only won one. But Nessius coached me during that time. This was one of the tips he gave me during that time. And if you're walking into a new zone, even if we have forest lights here, it's still useful to ensure that there's not a team hiding and waiting for a 3P, especially because Chapel is such a linear, like once you've chosen a corridor, if there's a team behind you, you're forced into that corridor. And the earlier you know that you're getting 3P'd or that there's a team behind you, the better decision you can make earlier to decide to not play into a fight, right? So this word specifically I've placed here because it's an entryway, like people have to pass through here, right? But you could have this deeper if you have forest lights, or you could have multiple words to cover like a sliver or a line to really make sure you have info as soon as possible that you could be getting 3P'd in an area. And then importantly, if you see that you're getting 3P'd or could be, you need to ping to your teammates like back, like we can't fight here. And then Vision Habit 6, I'm actually going to go back to this because I think this is also a great screenshot for how to use recon orbs very, very well. Because let's say that we wanted to walk up to go to cemetery. Maybe we have this, we have this word behind us. Maybe we will also want to get vision of this side channel here on Chapel. We might recon this bush right here and walk through the bush. We have another bush that we want to recon after. But then, if we choose that corridor and a team follows behind us this way, we might want to have another word here. We can also use a recon orb to scout out that entire line, right? So that's an example of using recon orbs to supplement your other vision types. Other ways you can use recon orbs, clearing a zone in nighttime, like you just stand still, place a recon orb, you wait like 2 seconds, and then you walk behind the recon orb, right? So it spots a team that's standing on a ward before you get spotted by the ward and die, right? Clearing a long line of vision, or again, using it to supplement other vision types. Common ways, the 4th one is my favorite. So reconning behind me is kind of similar to warding behind me to make sure that there's not going to be anybody coming from a different angle. Side note, practice these. Like, you can just go into practice tool, give yourself basically infinite gadget energy, and then just see. Like, you can make it do a U-turn around some corners. Like, you could really make these recon orbs go where you want to. So it takes a lot of practice, or maybe like 5-10 minutes to fully understand how they work in terms of placement. So just play around them as much as possible. All right. Thank you so much. If you have suggestions or feedback, leave it in the comments. It means a lot. If you have your own vision habits, please leave it in the comments. Hopefully other people will go down there and see your ideas as well about how to play around vision better so that you can make more informed decisions in general. If you do want to watch some of my streams, I feel like I play around vision pretty decently. Again, I just died yesterday, so maybe last stream that I played yesterday wasn't a good idea or a good example. But if you want to watch my VODs and see how I play around vision, go ahead and watch them. It'll be in the description. Other than that, I did get a lot of requests from people who did want to watch the snowballing video or want to watch a tempo video. I got like 4 requests in my DMs on Discord, stuff like that. So that'll be my next planned video in general. Anyway, thank you for watching and enjoy.